What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Conversation Corner. With me today, we're going to the swamp. I
Yeah.
yes, I just got done talking to Shrek and Donkey, and they did say that this gentleman is valid in their streets. I'm here today with Mr. Peair. How are you doing, sir?
Dude, I'm great. I'm great. I did not think the Shrek references were gonna get pulled so quickly, but I'm excited. I'm
Heck
excited.
yes.
What are
Bro,
you?
the swamp season's upon us.
The swamp summer is here. It's here. We're here. It's dropping soon, I swear.
Yeah. And actually, we can't even just get right into it. I like the fact you said it's finally here. I
Yes.
remember you sent me a version of this project even probably about 5 months ago, and it wasn't completely done. And I didn't want to listen to it because I
Yeah.
told you I wanted to hear it when it's done.
Yeah.
But what's been the process over those 5 months to get this thing tuned up for release?
So it took me a total of 10 months to actually finish the project. 5 months in, I was probably a good 65% done with it. Um, I just didn't that the funny thing is with world building and like building an album that's like this is like just the beginning. Like this could be like another version of Swamp or like a different chapter or a different novel of Swamp. But to me, it's like kind of building a movie. You're thinking of like Star Wars lore building and like world building and the aspect of like how can I take something at a Christian like parable throughout. So the idea is like the wrestle between the world and our faith as Christians, you know? And so you're kind of like toting that line and like each decision has its own consequences. Like am I really running from temptation or am I falling right into temptation and all that stuff? And so building an environment that creates the chaos and that aspect of like the lingering eyes, the aspect of the heebie-jeebie waters, like it's just like you want to like I want people to feel dirty almost like you're really stepping in mud. Like this is the aspect that you're going into. Like you're like when you go camping, like you're in the woods. If you bring toilet paper, you're great, but if you don't, you're using leaves. Like
Yeah.
it's like this is everything you got. Figure it out, you know? And so the idea of dropping a character, I guess myself in this aspect, because I'm that character on content videos and all that crap, but like dropping a character into that environment and seeing how it kind of pans out is always so like inviting to me because it's just like you want to know like what's going to happen. You want to see where it's going to go. And like that's the idea of like kind of making an album like in a way a movie to me where it's like maybe this could be a soundtrack to something at one day. I love the score, like I love to score something with it, but um it took me 10 months and it was like really 8 months of like writing and recording and then 2 months of like really finishing the production of it all. Just more of like the creative decision aspects. Like it's fun to sit on some records and then like find the time to perfect it because you hear it and then some artists can even go tone deaf with like like hearing it so much. You're like, oh, the mix is good, like this is good, but then you give it to somebody else and have their ears listen to it. It's like, okay, hold on, I think I missed something. And so like it's super, super great. And I have such a great community that I have given so many records to people just to like ask for the input, ask for like a production tip, like, is this song too long? Do I need to trim something? All that stuff. And it has always been like a great like response. And I've always gotten great feedback and I've utilized most of the feedback. But it was just a lot of like sharing the music, a lot of like figuring out how I want each record to like end and like the aspect of like how does this progress throughout? Like so you see this character and he's basically like going like fully into his anxiety and he's just like F it, like I'm fully like losing control, like I'm going to need to go somewhere. Like to me, like this guy's in his home and he's burning his house down. Like that's the first song. And then it goes into Crocodile Dundee, which is like the inviting of the environment, like welcome to the swamp, like this is where we're going, like this is where we're at. And then you just see him navigating the swamp and like he's meeting like other people like on camp. He like finds a tribe in a way, and I always loved the idea of like indie tribe and how they like call themselves the tribe and stuff. So I was like, oh, this could be cool. Like how can I incorporate the idea of that but not like rip it off obviously because I don't want to be like here's the next tribe or anything.
Yeah.
Like that's corny. But so everything was the intention was to keep everything original and draw inspiration throughout. which I think is just natural with music at that point. But yeah, the idea of like seeing this character meet like more people and then going through like the idea of navigating like, am I really gonna go down this path or do I need to like actually take this narrow road and like try to figure it out? So you see this character kind of like wrestling with God throughout the entire album, and I love that because it's like that's how real it is. Because I mean, I think everybody in their faith journey has had a rocky point in their faith journey. I think that's just normal. We're programmed to be indifferent with our faith. And I think that is the craziest aspect about it. But it's also like it makes you a fighter at the end of the day. Like you want to get up and like choose to make the right decision. You want to choose God before you choose anything else. And it's such an interesting aspect of like always falling short of that because we are also not perfect. So it's like, okay, we're not perfect. We're trying to be good, but can we be good? Because everything around us isn't good. So it's like, that's the swamp. That's a summary of like the whole parable in itself. But it's just this scary idea of like, am I truly gonna make it to the gates? And is God gonna be like, welcome to me, welcome me in, or is he gonna be like, I don't know you, and then you know, hell. But yeah, it's been a lot. I just ranted a lot about that, but yeah, I hope I answered your question right.
Yeah. The creative process took 10 months,
hmm
but did you always have this idea for the swamp, or when did the idea for the swamp come about?
That's a great question. It was actually like for me, this is more confirmation that God was speaking to me in this aspect. But I literally had a dream about it. I dreamed and it was like everybody in my major in college was at like I want to say it was like a lake house, not necessarily a swamp, but it was like this lake house. And this dream is super super weird. The fact that I remember it is only because I voice memoed myself talking about it like the next morning in the shower, and I knew that was going to be something for like this. Like I knew something musically creative was going to happen. But basically the dream was like me at a lake house. There was like a lake, and then in the middle of this lake there was like this gate that led to a hole, and everybody was like digging in this hole, and it was just like so inviting, but also like when people left the hole they looked worse than they did before going into the hole. And so it was like weird. So like when I got myself, I actually like I was on like this I want to say shoreline, and I dropped my shoes, hence the song Shoes at that point. But I drop my shoes and then I swim into this lake and then I go down this hole, and it's like 17 feet deep. Like I'm in this hole and I'm just digging down. And like there's this rope tethered to everybody who's also digging. And it just feels like a mining accident ready to happen. It's like really, really weird to even explain it like that. But it was such an interesting dream for me to be like, God, what are you giving me here? Because like, how can I apply this to anything? And so I was like, I literally drew out the dream and like how I envisioned it and like the entire work, like the entire water and like the shoreline where I left my shoes. And then there was a house too there, but I didn't draw it because I didn't think that was necessary. But like a lot of people that I also knew and like loved was also in this. So it was like really interesting. Um, but like everybody in my major was there. And so I was just like very, very familiar with that. And so when I wrote that dream and I was trying to figure out the symbolism or is there meaning to it at all, I came to the idea of like discovering the false reality and then entering the truth. And that was kind of like the idea or the concept that I had initially. And that was like, oh, like some things are painted to be this great thing that everybody needs to do, but not, and but in reality, not everyone does these things, and it's not necessarily the thing you need to do. And so, like to me, like I took college for example, is like college did a great thing for me. I've learned so much at college, but like if you think about it in retrospect and in financial situations, like we paint college as like you need to go here to get a job. This is how you get your good career.
Yeah.
But in reality, like everything has shifted to like do it yourself energy to me. Like I feel like you could have a laptop and like secure a great job and do a business and be successful, and you don't need anything. You could just need the internet and go on YouTube, and YouTube University is great. Like I use it all the time. But it's just the idea of that. That was like the conceptual idea of the dream. and how I like brought that. And then I was like, okay, how can I like make a character arc to this now? Like, how do I like set a world? And so like setting up the world, it was more of like a lake is like not that scary. Like I've read Goosebumps. I'm trying to
Yes.
think of this there's another version of Goosebumps, but it was like basically like telling these crazy stories where like there would be like a shark attack and the entire city floods and all that stuff. But I was reading those as a kid, and it was always so like dramatic in the way things would change, but it was like the real world, and then it became like this dystopian society. And I was like, I always loved the idea of like a dystopian movie or anything like that. So I wanted to make this like a dystopian kind of feel. And so that's why like the color grading and everything is so dark, and that's on purpose to like set the mood. Um but and even the colors, like being able to like wear like green and black was like kind of the idea. They look kind of messy, but like I never thought I was gonna grow a beard for it either, but ended up growing a beard, aged a couple years, did some things, and now I'm here. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of like the idea of like how can I build around this dream? And so that was like the Crocodile Dundee was actually the first song that came from that, just because I had felt so inspired by that dream itself that I wanted to like just try to write something that would encapsulate that world, you know? And so being that was the first single, and then seeing the response to that sound specifically, like that beat and the distortion, and like having it almost like at the end there was like this I like said swamp like really loud and distorted it, and it gave like this EDM feel where it was just like dun, dun, swamp, and then the drums come back in, and then it was just like dang, like that felt like a moment for me. And I was like, yeah, that's a cool realization to have when you're like making music and you're like, dang, I did something like that. And so being able to actually perform that song July 24th out of a U-Haul is going to be so much fun. So pull up to Atlanta.
Oh yeah. Um, your music prior to this
Yeah.
has such a different sound than what this sounds like.
Yeah.
You tackled so many different genres in all your music prior to Swamp.
Hmm.
Why going into Swamp did you decide to go into this more experimental direction with the sound? Was this always something that you wanted to do and this gave you the avenue to do it? Or did this just fit the ideas and the environment that you had built around
Yeah.
this?
So I think about this too because my prior knowledge of how I saw, I want to call it a business, but like more of just the artistry and the craft itself. It's the aspect of knowing what I know now and not knowing what I didn't know then. And like, I want artists, inspiring young artists, to actually take this as advice because I think this is the best thing that anyone could give. But the idea of finding one sound is also a traveling journey that everyone continues to have sometimes. And like for me, I knew like I had an idea way back then, of like how I would project my voice and stuff. And actually co-side a good friend of mine, we were doing a show in Tulsa, and ended up this was like the second show I've done as like a Christian rapper. And I remember just rapping it with like projection and confidence, like at a show, that I didn't realize that could translate to me recording that aspect as well. And so I spent like the last 3 months after that show, I think that was like back in 2019, I want to say. I could be wrong, but I think it's 2019. But the fact that we're in 2026 now, saying that is actually insane. But it was just the aspect of learning how to like navigate something that was right there in that moment and trying to recapture it. And so after that, I was like, oh, okay, I think I have like an idea of my cadence. And so going through that, ended up making two albums. And so the first album was This Is How We Worship with Coast. And that was like the idea of bridging the gap between worship and rap. And so really I didn't have a fixation on like my style or my cadence. I was just doing a bunch of different songs with him and just trying to like implement different genres being in the mix of this project. So it wasn't like one genre holding us down. It was just more of like, we're gonna do like a trilingual song. We're gonna make this a cinematic worship song. We're gonna do a full blown worship song, and we're not rapping. We're gonna be singing, and like there was things like that where it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And obviously, I'm not gonna say it's like the best style of music I ever made because it's not. That was the point, though, was for me to like get myself out of my comfort zone and figure out what would work. And so, fast forwarding, I did a lot of fun records just for fun because I really just like making music. I never had that much other than this Worship and Sinner Soul. Each album I've released has like a lot of intention behind the project because I want it to mean something because it's a body of work instead of a single. But usually, like the singles that I've released are more of just like me having fun with something and I have an idea and I want to release it, you know? Like Weatherman was such a fun record to do. Unk was a fun record to do, and that was just me like having fun. And then after meeting Kins, he's like this up and coming rapper too. Um, we did some records together, but I loved his tonality of his voice. He kind of does this nasal thing, and then my friend Yaki the Kid, he has like a super deep voice. And so the more I've worked with so many different artists, the more I realize there's different tonalities and there's different cadences. And so I was like, who's like a good artist to study for this? So I looked up Kendrick Lamar and he's one of my favorite rappers, but I ended up like really dissecting his album Damn, um Good Kid Mad City. Good Kid Mad City is probably my favorite one. Good Kids Mad City 2 also really reminds me of Tory Deshawn's album Come and See, and like the aspect of like the coming of age and the child adolescence and the aspect of like this is my real life. And I think for me too, that's kind of where like my gears started clicking when I listened to Good Kid, when I listened to Come and See. I listened to these projects and I'm not going to say it's world building, but it made me feel very, very invested in the world that they were sharing. Because I think, well, their world that they were sharing is a real world where mine's not. So the aspect of that was like such a interesting thing. And then following that, that was probably the Tory Deshawn to Come and See, and then Good Kid, Mad City. That was probably leading up to this event that really sparked all the motivation for the project. But it was like I got invited to go see 21 Pilots in concert, and I was like, never. I truly never listened to them. And Owen Jackson, Idigo, he's also a producer and rapper. Shout out my Rapzilla freshman. Hey, but yeah, he's one of my best friends. Like I'm going to see him tomorrow at a wedding, and I'll be in his wedding. But it's just I love how music had brought so many people in my life so close to my life, and I think that's so fun. Anyways, dissecting to the actual story. It was a 21 Pilot concert, and I went there and I fell in love with them. Like, it was the best show I've ever been to, and I never thought I'd be so inspired by a rock band. It's so funny as a rapper. But I ended up getting really invested in like what they were doing, and what they would do is like each album was like a story, and it was like lore that there was like lore books and like lore videos on YouTube about this guy named Blurry Face, and like it's the bishops and like the story and the world building that they made. I mean, give and take, they had a huge budget for it and it helped. And then every song on Blurry Face went platinum. But you know, like they continued that effort and they continued that creativity because they cared enough to showcase that. And I think as an artist, if you could showcase some creativity in everything that you do, you're gonna be like there. But like I guess for the advice I would give for any young, inspiring artist is more of like, one, figure out what you like. Two, figure out how to make it as creative and original as possible. I think drawing inspiration is a big thing. And so like going to concerts, seeing how mainstream artists or just big time artists are doing it is gonna make a difference. And if you start thinking about it, I want to say like critically think about it in a way. And I think I posted this on my Instagram story like a few weeks ago, I think, but it was like, do you think better in the car? Like for me, I always think better in the car because I can like focus on one thing, it's the road, and I'm trying not to die. And then I just like I'll sit and pray and talk to God, and then I'll like just start thinking about like what I need to do, and then I'll start thinking about ideas, and or maybe I'll have like a beat playing in the car, and then I'll see something. And so like it was literally like me leaving Atlanta I was at this red light and I looked to my left and there's like a bundle of flowers with a cage over it. And I wrote it down on my phone. I was like, cage flower. And I was like, oh, that's stupid. Why would they put a cage over a flower like that? What? Like, what would that gonna do? But it was like serving to protect the flower because it was like right next to a road. And so I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But the idea of that and taking that and spinning it into the song that it is now off the album is like, that's why we do what we do, is like look at things, draw inspiration, and write. Like, if you think conceptually more instead of like, oh, I'm gonna hop on this record and kill you with every punchline I got. Like, it's great. I love raps like that. Like, when people can showcase their actual craft, is great. I love that. But like, I always love being an artist that is like telling you more than what meets the eye. Like, you have to listen to the album like 3 times to like truly engrave what he's saying. And I think artists like that are truly like the ones that are leaving a greater legacy than anything. And I think their music showcased that for themselves. Like, that's the point, you know? It's like the point is to be as creative and showcase the creativity, you know? Because I think, especially in Christian rap, like, I feel like sometimes we have a lack of creativity. I would say more recent, like, Indie Tribe's new album's amazing, and I think their creativity is like obviously there. Um, but yeah, there's just a lot of like songs that I feel like I think for me too is like if you're thinking about it as a Christian rapper, right? Like, how many songs are talking about like how good is God, you know? Like, no offense to Forrest Frank and all that, but like, you really like, I don't think anybody's gonna have the same mindset of like, if you have the mindset of making this a career, which I do, I really want this to be my job one day. I think that'd be great. And like, I'd love to go on tour and all that stuff and do everything like that. Um, but if you're treating it like a job and you want to put out a good quality product, it's like you have to think like you're a scientist. You have to think like you're gonna create this new idea. This is gonna be the thing, you know? It's so hard to think what's gonna work for future reference, basing everything off like past results, because then you're just ending up like imitating the past instead of like originally like putting your forefront thought into like your own creativity to like what's gonna land down the line, you know? So I honestly forgot the question. I feel like I rambled much. I'm really in Josh's corner right now. Like, this is actually like a moment for me.
The corner meets the swamp.
The corner, the corner's in the swamp, bro.
Yes. I love that you talked about your inspirations. And
Mhm.
I also love that you talked about the people that you've met along the way.
Yeah,
People that I've found out about this year, such as Kins and Itigo and Yaki the Kid. Where did you meet all of those guys?
man.
Or how did you meet all those
I
guys?
think I guess this also is good advice to like give to any artist who's like curious about doing this. But one thing I think we get like really misconstrued is the idea of only staying over the phone and like sending an open verse and all that stuff. And I get that it's like sometimes you have to do that, or maybe you can't like travel as much. I was in the position where I was like, I could get in the car right now and drive to Atlanta and stay there, you know, figure it out. So my relationship with Coast Side was kind of like the start of that all. But I ended up texting him and I was like, "Hey, I really want to come to Atlanta and like work on some songs and like figure out how to like learn how to mix a little bit more and all that stuff." Because I feel like if I could get like some hands-on experience, because Coast has been doing it, and he does really good mixing. Like, I'm really really proud of his mixes and stuff, and so it's fun. It's really cool, and so he's really talented at what he does. Um, and so doing that kind of inspired the idea of boots on the ground networking in a way, but like I never saw it as networking. I just kind of saw it as like seeing my artist friend to go do what we love, you know? I grew up like having a bunch of idiots on a mic making a stupid rap song, throwing it up on SoundCloud, and that was it, you know? Like, that was the fun aspect that got me into music. That I love community and I love what the community it brings. because music is a universal language, and I think that is that's a weapon for the kingdom, but it's also a weapon for Satan, you know? So the aspect of that is also a very deep philosophical discussion that we could get really deep into. But besides that, I basically met everyone through music. It was either so I met Coast because of mutual friends and stuff, and then we ended up doing a show together, and that's how we got connected. And then I reached out to him about doing music, and so after that, that was like that grew into what it is now. And so through him, I met so many artists like Sam Ramos. He's like indie pop. He also has a band called Station 602. They're great. I love what they do. Um, and so like building that, I never thought as a rapper like I was just gonna like start with like some pop artists first and then kind of like ease my way into like more rappers and stuff. But Young Drew, also same time as Coastside, I met him in Tulsa and I was like in a music video with him and Jay Woods and this guy named Caleb Tucker. It was like me and this other rapper named One Luke. One Luke was on the Invasion tour with Miles Minnick. So I was basically a nobody, like with long hair in a music video. And I was just with all these guys, like with people who had accolades already. And I'm just sitting here like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here. And so I'm in this music video, like spraying a squirt bottle and everything. And it was super, super fun. And like, I didn't know Young Drew at the time. I thought he was like this super, like, prideful guy and he's like so big chest and he's like just a warm cuddly goofball, like you just want to like hug him. But I was intimidated because I didn't know what I was getting into. I don't know the rapper lifestyle. I don't know like how Christian rappers differentiate
Mm.
between secular rappers and stuff. So it's like, do we walk in here like we're all like the crap, or we just like just a normal guy? Like, how do we do this? So that was a learning curve in the beginning, but I basically just ended up getting connected with him. I think we did like, I want to say like, we've done a lot of songs together, but it was probably like the second song we've done. I'm proud to say too that I think I've been on every single Young Drew album except two. It was Gavin's and then a recent one, but I've worked on everyone except the one that Gavin and Drew did. Uh, Um, but meeting that connection actually led me to Yaki and then Kin's. At a show. We did a show in Jacksonville with Drew, and then Young Drew brought out Yaki. I met Yaki, fell in love with Yaki. Yaki's my favorite Christian rapper. Sorry, not sorry. You know what I mean? Kid's a weapon. But and then Kins DM'd me, which is such a funny story. He DM'd me saying he loved my music, but he apparently never listened to any of my songs. So I was like,
It's crazy.
he told me that like way later on too. I was in Memphis with him, like with his family, and that's when he told me that. And I was like, bro, what? Couldn't
Crazy.
he was just going through my Instagram reels and just said, "Oh, this guy's cool enough." I was like, okay. Couldn't give me a stream, but he'll definitely take my time for a verse. But he was definitely one of the artists that reached out to me where I was like, I had no idea who he was. And usually what I do is like if I don't know somebody, then I'll typically charge like a fee or something. And I think that's like also the business aspect of it. But like when he reached out, I was like, this guy's got a lot of potential. I'm curious if I give this guy a chance, where would it go? And then it just ended up going so much further than I thought it was gonna go. I love that kid to death. I think he's a stud. I think he has a lot of potential. And I think the reason I do it too, the reason why I was so intentional with that relationship was because of Young Drew and how intentional he seeked me out. Because I was like, I didn't know the space, I didn't know the community, I really didn't know Christian rap. But he helped me and like navigated me through that, and I think that was like a big thing. Which I think is funny because like he'll joke about like me being his son and like he's my dad kind of thing, and I'm like, it's because he's done so much for me to like put me in a position where I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing now, which is so helpful. It's like it's actually so great to like know what someone's doing now. Like when you know how to do something, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can ride a bike now. Thanks, Dad. That's what Young Drew was doing for me, basically. But Young Drew is also like such a like he's. I mean, he's the reason where I'm at right now in a way. at least with my relationships and navigating that through the Lord. I think the Lord steward that throughout, but it's like it's really cool to see how God has just like continued to give me a bunch of relationships with people, and I think that's the best way to navigate the music industry because I mean, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, and that's kind of like the saying they have down in Nashville. That's why I'm moving down there in a year. So that'll be fun. But it's just the aspect of that. I think it's a very important thing because if you're doing it on your own, how much can you really grow? Because you see
Hmm.
that, I mean, within the church, like if you're not going to church, how are you growing?
That's facts. That's facts.
If you're pursuing a music career and you're just stuck up on your FL, cooped up in the mic, looking at your rhyme zone, trying to find the best lyric and the punchline,
He said finding it on the rhyme zone. He said
and then you gotta record your
zero ball knowledge.
zero ball knowledge. I'm over their heads right now. Like if you know, you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
But yeah, it truly is like the idea of just navigating all that and the relationships kind of just came naturally. And I think that was very important for me because I knew how to I know how to be friends with people. Like I grew up in that. Like that was one thing school taught me, you know, thank God. Um, so like seeing those relationships and like how fruitful they became, like it's almost a blessing. And I don't know how to like any like out of all that, the only advice I would give is just more of like meet people where they are. Not like spiritually, more of just like physically get in the car and go.
Most definitely.
Yeah, like
One of
go.
one
Actually,
of my favorite people that you've met is Miss G-rated herself,
mm,
Miss Anna. I want you to speak to that relationship and how you met Anna and everything with that.
God, I didn't meet Anna until Smoke. But, it's so funny. That's a great question to pull. I wasn't expecting that either. I didn't expect like a G-rated shout out, but shout out G-rated. I just like I shouted her out on a feature I did with Saint Retro off his new album, The Land of the Free, and
On Redlined, right?
yeah, on Redline. And so we're performing that July 24th, and then at the Vinyl in Atlanta, July 25th. So that's gonna be fun. I'm gonna crowd surf and hopefully not die, but I have this lyric in the song where I said like G-rated code done locked out the diva, and it was like the idea of like, oh, she was putting me in my place because I like lash out sometimes. I try to picture myself as like an edgy Christian rapper, and I think it's so funny because I'm just like a normal like chill guy. I think I don't know. I don't know if I could say that about myself, but yeah. So like saying that and then like knowing I'm gonna perform that and like probably point at her and be like G-rated code done locked out the diva. It was such a cool moment, but that relationship, man, I honestly could not tell you how like the initial start happened. It was just more of like, oh wait, no, I lied. I actually remember exactly. It just came back. But I was at this show. I was doing a show with Coast and Sam in Atlanta. It was called No Rival Fest, and this year they're having like John Keith, Miles Minnick, like bunch of big names. Last year it was a year we opened. They had 1K Few, 350. A3 was there too. I actually got to
Oh shoot.
that was the first time.
It's a crazy festival.
Oh yeah, it was insane. They played Peter Pans and everything. Also Joel Barnes. I got to meet Joel Barnes. That was insane. Um, but yeah, it was just basically like this big festival they were doing in Atlanta, and I ended up doing the show. I met like 100 something people. I got like 100 some new followers on Instagram. It was great. And I remember talking to this girl named Becky. And within the Atlanta space, like your 1K Few, all those people, um, she had ties to the 47th spot. It was a venue that like KB and like D1 and all of them had performed at before. And she also had a connection. She was like, "Oh, I know somebody who's trying to start up like a business in the aspect of like getting artists the people they need to do certain things, right?" It was the grid space or something like that. She's calling it. I'm trying to remember, but I can't remember. And so when she told me about that and told me the girl was G-rated, and I ended up following G-rated like right after that when she told me to, because I was like, oh, this is great. Like I love how somebody can take the Christian community and build a original system where artists can network, and that's so cool. Like I think that's so fascinating, and I love how people can do that. So seeing that idea, I was just like, oh, that's neat. Let me follow her, like to keep up, you know? And I didn't think anything was gonna come out of it. Um, I would show you my first DM with her, but it's so many DMs in that in Instagram. I don't want to scroll all the way up, but it was. I think she either reached out or I reached out, but I just remember like starting a conversation to like just figure out what she was doing. Like I was really fascinated, you know, like being a fan and saying you're a fan. I think is a very. I think it's a cool thing to say. I don't think people should take that where it's like, oh, he's just a fan. Like, but yeah, I think when people can be like, oh, I love what you're doing, that's the most genuine you can be, you know? And when you mean it, not when you lie and say you've listened, Atkins, but
I guess, yeah, yeah.
do your research and then actually like figure out what you like, you know? But yeah, after that I like ended up meeting G Rated at Smoke, and that was like when we talked about management and everything like that. And I was telling her so many ideas I had, and I wanted to do a show at the 47th spot like in October. And so we did that, and we did that together. And that was like really really cool to like build like a show from the ground up and like really boots on the ground with that, because it was like me and Anna were like basically the only two like truly building this show, and we had like Kappa pull up, we had YOF actually pulled up too. They pulled up for like a Q&A at the end. They were late to
Dang.
the show, but that's what I met Brocky, Germ, and Retro in the same night that night, which I thought was really, really funny. And I didn't know who they were because I mean they were so underground at the time too. I mean, and they still are in a way, but like my knowledge of it, I was like, who are these guys? Like, why are they here? And then I was like, I tapped in with them, and I was like, wait, these guys are great, but I didn't realize Anna had knew them prior and stuff. So I was like, oh, Anna's known other artists and stuff. I thought this was like I was like one of the first ones or whatever, but it was really funny because I ended up being like one of the first artists that she started managing. And now she has like a whole roster, which is super cool, and I'm very, very proud of her because she's really been working really hard for that. And now she has like enough money to like buy a house, and she has a house now, or not buy a house, but like rent a house or whatever. And so she has her own place, and she's been really building. Because she has an awesome testimony. Like you should get her on this. She would love that.
Oh, for sure. I definitely want to at
Yeah,
some point.
she could tell you so much, but for like the position that she was, or for the cards that she was dealt in her own life, and the fact that she was able to navigate that and do something that was so fruitful, and now it's become her job. That's insane. I was just like, praise God for that, you know. But yeah. So I met Anna through that. I hope. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, that's excellent.
She's really
Um,
awesome.
no, I think that's amazing. I think there's just so many dope people in the space.
Mm,
Um, I like the fact that you talked about the business aspect earlier, and even with talking about Anna's story, just the business that comes with that.
yeah.
What's something that you've taken away from the music business side of things while being a rapper inside of the space?
Oh, I want to shout out college for that because I have a commercial music degree in production, but I also got to learn so much about what actually happens in the business. And one thing is it's very cutthroat and it's very like quick. Like opportunities will fly by. Like you got to be quick to it. So it's the idea of like being ready for anything, right? You think about it like as a firefighter, like you're lounging all day and then something happens, the alarm goes off, then you got to be like boop, 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 and then pick up the fire. But yeah, it's truly like it's complicated because it depends what you want to do. Like if you're an artist, you got to start building your craft first of all and your brand and actually do that. And then once you have something that's like commercially viable, then like you could actually start presenting that to people. And so like how do you present that to people? It's more of just like I think it's all situational, but like say you're in the car and like your artist friend is like sitting there and like, hey, I got a new song I just worked on. Like you want to hear the mix and car check it or whatever. Then you're playing a song, maybe it has an open verse and you're like, hey, you want to hop on it? Boom, 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 boom. It's just like doing it in a natural way, which is like being who you are and what your brand is should be who you are anyways. Like I wouldn't want to like tell somebody to be something they're not, you know? And so I think authenticity is actually like the key to it all. Just be yourself, and like the people that are gonna gravitate towards you is gonna gravitate towards you. I think that's like the reassurance I can give. But you also have to be intentional and actually go out and seek some of these people too. Cause like that's the big thing about it is like if you're interested in getting to know the industry, go up and ask people what they know about the industry. Go ask like an A&R agent at Capitol. Be like, "Hey, I'd love to get coffee," and that's how you can start a conversation. Like, not everybody is like untouchable that you can't reach out to. Like, there's so many people you can talk to. There's a lot of people in the space even that you can talk to, and they're very direct. Like, I didn't realize how direct A3 was. Like, I think it's so cool how like personal he is because he'll reply to a DM and whatever. So I was sending him my flyer to my show, and he liked it and everything. So I thought that was cool. But it's just the idea of like not being the idea is to be more the trying to think of the summary. The idea of it all is like really just fixate on what the community is and how can you navigate that in your own, depending on what
Mm,
you want to do. So
yeah.
yeah,
Trying to find your own way in it, trying to be creative in the space,
yeah,
add something of value to it, right?
yeah.
Uh,
People love it when somebody has something to say, and I think that's a big thing. It's like
mm,
give me something that I could take from and you know apply to my own life, kind of thing. That's why people like you look at the Bible, like people. The reason why is one, it's the the weapon of faith, obviously. Um, but it's also so applicable. Like so many people who aren't even Christians could open the Bible and apply something to their life through it. Go to a Proverbs, like any proverb, like it's just advice lines, and I think that's so cool. And like it's the reason why it's like the number one selling book of all time because everybody wants to know what's going on in it. Um, so like giving people like ideas in itself, like creating a conceptual idea will be something that hopefully people want to hear. I think it's the idea of also like we're in the generation where attention span is so short. Like you put me, I'll say this. I feel like if I was the same artist now, but back in like 2012, I was doing this like the exact same way, it'd be very, very different in like how the scales would rise. Cause not too many people, not like nobody had access back then. I could be wrong
mhm.
at the time, it could be like way later or a little bit sooner or whatever, but I want to say like 2011, around that time. I just think that it was like when mixtapes and stuff, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong in the time, but I just think like those timelines were so much different than what we are now, where we're just chasing an algorithm, and like hopefully a video will pop off. Like we had an artist has to become a content creator now, like, and also so much more if you want to do anything else other than release songs. But it's just a lot. Like you have to be your own record label, and that's the hard part about it. And so it's a more of the idea of like, are you going to do it? Or are you going to pay people to do it? Or are you going to give up?
Yeah, most definitely.
You know?
Pierre, this has been an excellent conversation, man. Been an excellent time. I want to give you the floor for the last couple of minutes here. If there's something, is there something that you want to leave the listener with as your parting words?
Yeah. Um, I want to talk directly about the album, but I want to thank everybody who's on the album, people who've touched the project, people who have inspired me through the project. Truly shout out everyone on that because this was something that I couldn't do on my own, and each person that was placed in my life have has kind of played a role in this project, either directly or indirectly. And I think that's an amazing thing to do, an amazing thing to have, and an amazing thing to say. So I'm very, very proud of that, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, when you listen to this project, or if you listen to this project, I hope you listen to this project. You should. If you enjoy original creativity being presented in the best possible format that I could do personally, you may like this. But this is a story, it's being told. You may not understand it the first listen through, and I pray that this project becomes something that artists could study, artists could look at and be like, okay, this was a moment. This artist made a moment. How do we what can we learn from it? What can we pick apart from it? What do we like? What can we connect with? What do we not like, you know? Um, I just say when you listen to this project, enjoy it, study it, have fun with it, and meditate on it. Pray on it. You know, I think there's records on this that speaks life. There's records on this that really emphasizes struggle. But I think the story being told is something that I'm very proud of, and I think God is very proud of. I believe God's proud of it. And so I'm excited to perform it July 24th. So if you're in the Atlanta area, I don't know if we could put up like a flyer or something. It's in Atlanta. Just go to my Instagram at Peair Music. You'll find it. It's a free show, but I will be doing like my entire album except one song because one song has like seven other rappers on it, so it can't really doesn't really work like that. Um, but yeah, please come to the show. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to talk to you and get to know you. And if you have any questions about the album, feel free to DM me. Feel free to just reach out, and I love to answer it. I love like when people have questions about what I was doing or was this intentional and stuff like that. And so it's always so fun. And I'm just really excited and ready to like start performing these records more. And so it's been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun. And I'm very proud to say that this album is coming out July 24th. Um, and so listen to it when it drops.
Heck yeah, brother. Well, this is awesome. This has been Josh's Review Corner. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.